Hi, this is Hiki with the Lost Samba podcast, and today I'm very happy because we're going to talk about the jewel in the crown of the great Brazilian popular music, the godfather Bossa Nova, namely João Gilberto.
Dá licença, meu senhor. Dá licença pra ioiô. Eu sou amante da gostosa Bahia, porém, pra saber seus segredos, serei baiano também.
He comes from a small town in the interior of Bahia, not a small town, a middle-sized town in the north of the state, which is almost in the Sertão, if not in the Sertão, I'm not quite sure, called Juazeiro. So he was born in 1931. He's of a generation before the Tropicalia, although there's the regional music of the Sertão. He was more into the samba. It all came from Rio. Orlando Silva, Noel Rosa, Francisco Alves, Ismael Silva, they're all big names. They're of the same generation as Carmen Miranda, who was a huge success all over the world. The only foreign music that he would have heard there was it didn't even play in the local radio. The local radio was also exclusively Brazilian music. It was a different world in those days. Cinema was Brazilian, music was Brazilian, everything in Brazil was made in Brazil. City councils would put megaphones or loudspeakers in their main square, and they'll play music on weekends for everybody to hear. And it was quite funny. There'd be love messages. So and so who lives so and so is in love with so and so who lives so and so, and or so and so come back to me because I love you so much. Anyway, they used to play foreign music in these loudspeakers, and it was there that João Gilberto got in contact with the arrangements from orchestras in the States, in Argentina, in Europe, from all over the world. So for some reason, that region of Juazeiro and the neighboring town called Barro Vermelho, where he also grew up, his family had houses both in Juazeiro and in Barro Vermelho. Barro Vermelho especially is a very musical place. So in a small town, Barro Vermelho is a proper village. Juazeiro is quite a big town, but Barro Vermelho is tiny. So in that tiny town, there's the local band that plays in occasions and everything, and there was a philharmonic orchestra. So that means it's a lot of musicians per square meter. It's not folk music, it's classical music. It's like serious classical music. As any great musician, it's not only these influences, these obvious influences, you know, what he heard on the radio or what he saw, what played in the village loudspeakers. The place he grew up with is a very dry and very silent region with a lot of wildlife, so he would have heard not only the wildlife, the birds and the wild animals crying out, but also it's also a cattle region, so he would have heard the songs of the cattle herders and of the cattle. Bob Marley has this in common with João Gilberto. He also grew up in the countryside, and when he came to Kingston, Jamaica, he was very different from his peers because he has a different sensitivity. Country people do have this contact with nature that makes them more aware of what's around them and what life is about. Not life in the big cities, what life in general is about. We'll skip directly to João Gilberto as a professional artist, as a professional musician in Rio. Right, that's where he made his career. That's where all the main record companies were, and where the televisions were, and where an artist should make it. He was a very improbable success because he wasn't the prettiest guy on earth, or the most handsome guy. He also didn't have an operatic voice. In those days, every singer had to have an operatic voice, be a big guy, and probably have a lot of romance stories and stuff like that the press would write. He had to be good with the press. João Gilberto was nothing of that. He was a very shy guy. He also was very reserved. He was an anti-hero, as you would say in a film. But he compensated this with an amazing talent. Even with the Bossa Nova people, he was different. He was an outsider. The original Bossa Nova people were all from the upper middle class Carioca society, so they all knew each other. Their parents knew each other. They were normally rich, and the fathers were lawyers, doctors, engineers, bankers. So they all knew each other, and it was a kind of a cliquey thing. He had a mixture of using the rhythm in a very different way. It wasn't something constant. He broke the rhythm, and it would change during the music depending on the mood of that part of the song, depending on what the voice was doing. He changed the rhythm. Chords he used were also very elaborate, many chords no one had ever seen. The way he placed his voice was also very, very unusual. As with the rhythm, he'd be playing one note, but the voice would be in another note, which would make sense with the meaning of the song, but wouldn't make sense harmonically or melodically. And this very elaborate way of playing blew their minds. So the parallel that I do, he was like the Jimi Hendrix of the Bossa Nova crowd. When he played, must have seemed like witchcraft to them, the same way that Jimi Hendrix played the authentic blues when he went to when he came to England, and he sounded completely different, right? So he blew their mind, but he also became their godfather. Everybody imitated him or tried to imitate him, and he became like the guitar guy to go to at the time. Because of a probable medical condition, he must have had an OCD thing about him, and also because he was aware that to make it in the musical industry he had to be very, very, very good. So the two together, he was a perfectionist. He was obsessed with his work. He played almost 24 hours a day, was always with his guitar, not only with coming up with the arrangement of a song, but also in theaters or in recording studios. They're notorious cases. I think once in New York he was recording an album, and he said, no, there's a buzz here, I can't record with this noise, and they turned everything off. The buzz still continued, and no, there's something wrong here, you can't record with this, and if you don't stop it, I'll leave. And they ended up sussing out that what was bothering him was the sound of the underground that was a few blocks away, but he could hear that. Difficult to deal with, but that was João Gilberto, and because of this perfectionism, he had work that lasted forever. Other people who weren't so perfectionist just tell his story. As Bossa Nova grew in Brazil and outside Brazil, he flourished with it, his career flourished, and he became an international name. He was well received by the jazz community. Notoriously, Miles Davis said that this guy will sound good even underwater. Until the end of his career, that ended like a decade ago. He's already passed, unfortunately. He would fill stadiums all around the world. Wherever he went, he was a sellout. In Japan, he was very popular.
É só isso, meu baião, e não tem mais nada não. O meu coração pediu assim só.
And he once got, this is recently, relatively recently, a 25-minute standing ovation. Now, it's very few artists that can say that they had a 25-minute standing ovation, and mainly he when he presented himself, he many times used orchestras, but it was mainly him on a stool playing his guitar. There had to be a carpet. His stool always had to be in a carpet. That's something that he always required. And given this profile, right, or his style that was very soothing and very intimate, it's no surprise that he was very into meditation. He followed yoga called Yogananda, and he went to his center in Los Angeles several times. His music and meditation have a lot of things in common. In this tense and anxious world, I recommend everyone should listen to João Gilberto at least 5 minutes a day. It is very soothing. It has this thing in it that's untouchable, but it's healing, right? The word is healing. João Gilberto's influence, not only on his generation, but on the generations that came after, is undeniable. Right? So, among the Tropicalia, the two main names, which we've already talked about in previous podcasts, Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil, they'll be the first ones to say that João Gilberto was a great influence. Not only in their way of playing, they used all the chords, and they also played a lot with rhythms, but also in getting folk music or popular music and giving it style, but without losing their essence. So João Gilberto was a expert in this. He didn't transform the song. He just improved it, or he just polished it. And the both Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil did that in their work. For the generation that came after Tropicalia, this is also true. João Gilberto opened this portal, which not only the Tropicalia and his generational peers walked through, but also big names such as Djavan, Alceu Valença, Milton Nascimento, Jorge Ben, João Bosco, and other names that I'm probably forgetting. They all went through this portal of getting Brazilian music and polishing it, right? Giving it a special dimension, which is something that is peculiar to João Gilberto. The most notorious names of people who received João Gilberto's influence is a Novos Baianos, which I've already also done a podcast about, which is my favorite band of all times in Brazil and outside Brazil.
Samba da minha terra deixa a gente mole, quando se canta todo mundo bole, quando se canta todo mundo bole, quando se canta todo mundo bole. O samba da minha terra deixa a gente mole, quando se canta todo mundo bole, quando se canta todo mundo bole.
They not only befriended João Gilberto, they almost adored him like a deity. At the time when they arrived in Rio, they rented a penthouse where they put tents, and it was like a hippie encampment. It was very, very, very alternative. And João Gilberto used to go there and teach them how to play, and he polished their talents too. And there's a funny story that the first time he appeared there, one of the younger members of the band who had never met him went to the door and saw this guy in a suit and a tie and thought it was the police. So he ran up, said, "Look, the police is out there, let's hide everything, we're all going to jail." And when they opened the door, it was João Gilberto. And João Gilberto went on to produce their best record, called Acabou Chorar. The song I'm going to play today is one of his many successes. He's consistent with his quality. If you get his first record and his last record, all of them are good. They all have the same signature. They're very intimate, they're very soothing. He never went into fashion. João Gilberto was always João Gilberto. The song is called Wave. It also has a version in English, and it's very famous, and I hope you like it. já não podem ver coisas que só o coração pode entender. Fundamental é mesmo amor, é impossível ser feliz sozinho. O resto é mal, é tudo que eu não sei contar. Coisas lindas que eu tenho pra te dar. O amor se deixa surpreender enquanto a noite vem nos envolver. Da primeira vez era a cidade, da segunda paz e eternidade. Agora eu já sei da onda que se ergueu no mar e das estrelas que esquecemos de contar. O amor se deixa surpreender enquanto a noite vem nos envolver. Vou te contar. To speak about quirkiness, João Gilberto would be to speak about his whole life. He really was a very weird, to put it candidly. He had periods of reclusion where nobody could speak to him, just lock himself in a room for days trying to learn a song or trying to solve the harmony of a song. Legend says that he once locked himself in a room with a cat. He liked animals very much, and when he opened the window, the cat jumped out because he couldn't stand it anymore, and obviously died. He was also known to going for rides, at 3 o'clock in the morning outside Rio, just to stay playing guitar by the beach. He was also famous for calling people at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning when they were sleeping, just to have a chat. And for him, time was more than Einstein. Time was relative. It was his time, and that was what was important. Shows he'd sometimes arrive 3 hours late, 4 hours late, and in his mind, the people were there to listen to him, so he arrived whenever he wanted. All over the world, people already knew how to deal with it. They would come up to the microphone, look, João Gilberto's late, whoever wants their money back, here it is, but he will come here. There's several instances where he was invited for dinner or for a party, and he would arrive also 3 or 4 hours late. Driving, he was a real danger, so he'd cross every red light. And once Gilberto Gil was in the car with him, and he suddenly stopped in a green light after having crossed I don't know how many red lights, and Gilberto Gil was, why did you do that? And then suddenly a car came at full speed, and he avoided an accident because he had probably heard it, no one else had heard it. Also, as I said before, he would kind of suddenly say, look, there's too much buzzing here and no one would know where this buzz came from, and they'll turn off the air conditioner, all the equipment, and when he wasn't happy, he said, okay, the acoustics here are just not good, I'm not going to give a show. And he'd just walk away and he wouldn't give a concert. So he was a very, very quirky character. There are also cases where he would invite someone for dinner, but he didn't want to go, so he'd call a restaurant to deliver a dinner for that person, and that was his way out of that dinner, so he wouldn't go, but the food would go. There are numerous stories. So João Gilberto was a proper character, but still a genius. So may he live in our best memories. Hope you liked the podcast this week. I hope to see you again next week. Bye.